Now recording. It is 7:01. Want to thank everyone for being here. This should not take very long because there's not a whole lot that has changed from last year. We just got to talk about some of the things that are not in play, basically for this season, and then we'll answer any questions that, if you're new or old, you might have going into the season. So, uh, it looks like my screen is sharing, so that's good. I'm not gonna be able to see any of the chat, so Lauren, if you want to take control of the chat, that'd be great. I can't tell. I can't see. Okay.
Yep, I got it.
Perfect. Okay. So, this is Overwatch 2. If you're here for Rocket League, you're a little early, so sorry. But this is Overwatch 2. One of the things on here that is different from last year, this actually did say 6 still right here. So we changed it to 5 because you only need 5 computers to run Overwatch 2 now. It is also cross-platform, so if you have students that have, or if you as a school have Xboxes or PlayStations or Switches, you can still play on those as well. It's a little bit different, and the whole keyboard and mouse versus controller debate is out there still, but in theory, you are able to play cross-platform there. So a lot of this stuff is the same as it always has been. For Overwatch 2, you do need a student to probably create their own accounts. The only issue that, and we're running into it here at North Tama as well, is if a student does not have a cell phone or a cell phone number, how does that work? And so I haven't seen really any workarounds from that yet. We were lucky enough to have some accounts from before that was required that are still okay, and so that's how we've been able to get by it. But we would recommend just having students create their own accounts and going from there, making sure the name is appropriate, especially if we make it to the state level, which there are sponsors, corporate sponsors. We don't want to make them angry there. You need a stable internet. I would wire in if I were you. Headset with a microphone. Windows. If you're running on Windows 7 still or Windows 8, could you let me know? Because I really want to get rid of those in the operating system thing here. But most people are on Windows 10 or Windows 11 by now. So as long as you're on that, you should be okay. The game's about 50 gigabytes, so you need that. And so go delete Siege and put Rocket League on there, or put Overwatch on there now. So, all right. If you have any questions, just pipe up because I can't see the screen right now. So just kind of let me know.
If you raise a hand, I can moderate that as well.
Perfect.
That's perfectly fine.
Perfect. Thank you. So, for a varsity team, you can have up to 10 members on a varsity team, and then you can have up to 10 members on a JV team. Overwatch plays on Tuesdays, and JV plays on Thursdays. So the benefit there is going to be if you have a kid that's on your varsity roster who does not play at all on Tuesday, then he or she is able to play then on Thursday as part of the JV team. So that's kind of how you'll know. But if they play varsity, they can't play JV for that week. So just kind of plan that accordingly. Like I said, their participation is being listed in the lineup for an individual game. So even if they only play one map, that is still considered being part of the game. You got to be in good standing with the IAHSEA and as a student athlete, and it's the deck's responsibility to make sure that you are compliant. And we have had some very nice decks in the last couple of weeks kind of reach out to us and say, hey, we've had ineligible kids, so we need to forfeit or something like that. So it's been really, some upstanding decks in here, so that's good, and we appreciate that. All right, some definitions. A week is a single round of play. A match is the totality of the event between the two teams, and then a game is one of the maps that we are playing. So here are a list of those maps. So if you're not familiar with Overwatch, a control map is basically you have to go to a point and control that point until you get to 100%, best 2 of 3. A push map, you have a robot that you have to escort, and you push them a distance. Whoever pushes them farther wins. Escort map is you are escorting a payload, and it's either attack or defend. You play both, and whoever pushes it farther wins that one. And then hybrid is a hybrid between control and escort. A note here is we do not have Flashpoint in the rotation this season, so Flashpoint will not be in play this year. Okay. A round is a single attack or a defense of a game, or a for a control, just going to a point. Are those questions, Lauren, or just comments?
Nope, I think they're just Discord things.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
Might be a you thing.
Perfect. Yeah, that's me. Yep. All right. So then a round is single one, and so yep. That's basically it for that. All right, so hopefully by the time you already have a team and you've already signed up, if you haven't, you probably shouldn't be here right now, but that's okay. Schedules are on your website. They'll also be listed in your dashboard. It sounded like there were some issues with the JV dashboard before I got in, so we'll take a look at that. But the varsity one should be up and going. It is your responsibility to go through the schedule now and basically figure out if there are dates that conflict with you and your team, and contact that deck in case that if they do, to then reschedule. Once this week one starts, basically that means that everything should be in order for Tuesdays, and you need to play on Tuesdays unless there is a quote-unquote act of God that we'll talk about here later on. I think that doesn't mean that if you have to reschedule that you can't. It just means that the other team does not have to reschedule if it doesn't fall within their time frame as well. Okay. Varsity matches play on Tuesdays at 4. And talk to your coaches about if that works. Some schools don't get out until like 3:45, 3:50, and so a 4:15 time, or 4:15, 4:30 might need to be there instead. And then JV is Thursdays at 4 as well. All right, so before the match begins for Overwatch 2, you need to complete your dashboard, and you need to actually list who is playing what type of character. It is 1 tank, 2 supports, and 2 DPS for the game. And actually, hang on really quickly before I went through all this terminology up here. I just want to make sure. Game, perfect. So during a game, a character or a student may not switch between like a tank and a DPS, but in between games, he or she may switch between them. So if you have a student playing tank in game 1, they can go play a support in game 2. Basically, you should have the IGL be listed, or your team captain listed. That way, they can be the one that invites the other team, and that way you can add people as friends, and they're the only ones that should be chatting within the chat outside of a good GG or stuff like that. If a team has a spectator, make sure that they are using that for streaming purposes only. And so don't have a spectator, just and then not stream, basically. And then we also encourage you to post that on the We Are Live channel on the Discord. I think, and Lauren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 spots for a spectator in Overwatch, correct?
There is a possibility to have more spectators, but it should be noted that one school is designated 1 spectator spot apiece.
Yes.
So if Dyke New Hartford is playing North Tama, Dyke New Hartford may have 1, North Tama may have 1, and there should be no others outside of that.
Yep, I know, and I know. I think some people have always asked about, like, well, can it be a spectator? That way they can like get into the game quicker. I would just have them just be in Overwatch, and then you can like sub them in. It doesn't take that long to sub in a player if they're already ready to go. So I think there was probably a hand raised.
Austin, go ahead.
Yeah. So just had a quick question about the spectating. We have a section in our school for spectators to come watch in person. So there have been weeks where the other team hasn't had a spectator going. we didn't have enough time to get the whole stream set up, so we just threw up a spectator view on the screen where my players can't see it. We're not streaming on Twitch, we're not streaming on YouTube, but we still have a stream up. Is that okay?
I would say so under coach's discretion. I would just be extremely apparent, or not apparent,
Yeah.
but extremely vocal with that to the other coach and
Yeah.
just say, hey, we would like to take the secondary spectator spot, but for this purpose and this purpose only, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't breaking a rule there.
Scott had also asked if they can change characters within role in match, though, correct? Yes, absolutely. So if Timmy is listed as support and they change between Lucio and Mercy, that's totally fine.
Good question. As for that spectator thing, Austin, I would try always to live stream that too. But if it, I've had it before too, where it's like, oh, I just gotta throw someone up really quickly and just throw it out there.
And we've got a lot of parents that come to the games too. So cool. Before we started streaming it up on the board, we've got a lot of them that just stand hovering over the kids' shoulders, and the kids are like, "Can we ask the parents politely to back up?" Like, and so like having them completely go to the other side of the room and look at around the corner at the board has been helpful. So that's just my thought on it.
Yep.
Because there have been times where like they don't tell us they're not taking the spectator spot until like 2 minutes before game starts. So
okay. And in Overwatch, there is more than one, because like I think we played a game last year against someone, I forgot who it was, but they had like 4 spectators, and it's like, oh, that's not right. You shouldn't be doing that. But so you should be able to take that spectator spot no matter what. So okay, cool.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. If you are changing roles throughout games 2 through 5, you can put those in like in between, so that way you don't have to put in like Timmy from Deck New Harbors playing tank games 1 through 5. You can just do game 1 and then change it or keep it the same as you go. I know there are some students that play multiple roles depending on the map and you know the kind of comp you want to play, so you can do it that way too. All right. Match time for the home team. Basically, we'll create the game lobby with the following settings. I'm not going to read all those settings there for you. You can read those yourself. But basically, it's very easy to set up a lobby in Overwatch. And so there is no kill cams. And so making sure that is set up there. Overwatch is weird where you have to like click on like just like the one map that you want to play at a time. We don't have it set up or they're in order, so you just have to do one at a time. So you have to go click on the first control map and then click off that one and then click on the next push one and kind of keep going that way. The maps are below. We'll go through those here in just a second. And like it says there, all the maps should be off with the one map that you're playing be on. So whoever is running your match will just have to go in and do that each time. And then during the playoffs, there will be a map banning process like there was for Siege this year. So just kind of making sure that you know what that is and knowing what those maps are. They're basically all the same ones that we played during the season. So the home team is the one that sets this game up, and then they invite the away team captain, and then they bring in their team, and then try to change the names from like team 1 and team 2. Try to change them to like the names of the schools. That can help out for either streaming purposes or if you're just voting later on, it helps out quite a bit. And then if the game lobby is not correctly set up, the game will be stopped and replayed. And so if just make sure that it's set up, and that one can also, I would say, be coach's discretion. Like I know in like Siege, I know we had an issue with a game not being set up correctly, but it really didn't. And so we just kind of replayed around versus the whole game because we noticed it. But it kind of depends on what the issue is, and so just make sure it's set up correctly beforehand.
Question in the comments of what was the reasoning behind no kill cams. Just curious. I believe the original purpose of having no kill cams is that within that kill cam, you might be able to gain valuable information about the other team that you probably otherwise should not have. or I would say some, but not limited to, just like the use of ults, percentage of ults, etc., etc. Generally, I mean, we all know that when you play in regular quick play or regular standard or regular ranked, etc., that those kill cams are on and it gives you that information. But in the competitive scene, or I should say in the Scholastic competitive scene, I believe that's the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, so like if I kill you, then you can see like, oh, I got my ult, so watch out for that coming up. And so yeah, it just adds a little bit of a disadvantage. It goes both ways there, I understand, but I mean, yep.
Yeah, not saying it's not like a normal process in Overwatch. I just believe that was the original intention behind it.
Playoffs. So we are in 3 divisions. So we will take the top 12 or class. I'm gonna call them classes. So we'll take the top 12 from each class and do a true seeding 1 through 12. And then basically how we have it set up is top 4 will make it into the playoffs, where then 5 through 12 will have to have a sub-state battle to make it in. This one is important here as well. Once the playoffs begin, a team roster may not change. So I would make sure that all of your team is in there by week 7, week 8. That way there's no confusion there, and everyone is in playing. Okay, that helps us out because then we print off rosters and make sure they're good to go for the season or for the postseason. Apparently my Discord is blowing up right now. So let's see here. If a JV teams are included in play in a varsity season, scores will not be recorded for that game. Varsity teams should be considered a bye week or a scrimmage. So really no one has any bye weeks this year. It's all week 1 through 7 with a week 8 for makeup games. So no bye weeks.
I believe there's like one division in like JV Rocket League that has a bye. I think that's it though. There was like one division that had 9 teams instead of 10 teams, or 9 teams instead of 8, and so there was a little bit wonky one where like all but 2 of those teams in that division or 2 of those teams in that will have a bye week. But we'll do it very similarly to last season, where if we had cross divisions, or I should say if we had subdivisions within a class, there we go, that had buys and some of them didn't, then we would just kind of skip ahead in our seeding process when the time comes to rounds played or head-to-heads and things like that.
Gotcha. Thanks for the update there, Lauren.
Thomas, there are, just a heads up on numbers, basically. There were 59 teams that signed up for Overwatch this year just for varsity. There was about 30-something teams for JV. So again, just as a comparison, we had like 50 teams at the beginning of last year. So huge jump, really yay. There are 3 classes or divisions, as we call them, with 2 subdivisions apiece. Again, we kind of shortened, or I should say, included more teams within those subdivisions. We basically just did it east and west this year in order to avoid some of those things like buys or double buys or the need for cross divisionals, et cetera, et cetera. So that was kind of the thought process behind that this year with not seeding, but scheduling this year. Hopefully that answered everything.
Perfect. The playoffs are going to be in Marshalltown once again. They're going to be at the end of the week of the 19th of February. So right now it is looking around the 22nd or 23rd of February is when Overwatch will be. So stay tuned. We'll put it in the Discord, fairly soon, what those exact dates are, but I would block off at least a Wednesday through Friday of the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd for Overwatch. So talk to your superintendents and your ADs and your principals now about that, all that good junk, okay? All right, here are the maps. One kind of noticeable kind of takeaway here is that there is no Samoa at this time. So Samoa would have been here in Game 1 in Control, so Game 1 and Game 5. Samoa is not going to be played this year, so just kind of know that going forward. Also, like I said earlier, Flashpoint will not be played, so we will do Control, Push, Escort, Hybrid, and then back to Control if it goes to a Game 5. Um, for the map list here for the bans, basically the higher seed will ban first, and then we'll just kind of keep going until you get to a map. After that, it is the team that lost the prior game will begin the banning process. So if North Tama is playing Dyke New Hartford and North Tama crushes Dyke New Hartford, like I know we will, then Dyke New Hartford will then start the banning process for game number 2. Is that right, Lauren? Or
oh, mostly.
Oh, okay, great, perfect.
That's only playoff, right?
That is only playoffs. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. For the actual week, so like week 1, everyone in Overwatch will play those 5 maps in that order, and then week 2, everyone will play those maps, in that order, kind of a thing. And so, Ilios is game 5 here, but it's also game 1 the next week because there's probably a chance that you don't get to game 5. It's been a long time since I think we played a game 5 here anyway. So we usually get destroyed. So it's fine. And so that's kind of what that is there. So yep, play them in this order. I know Push is kind of in a weird 2 spot there. When I think in the OWL I think it's 4th if I'm not mistaken. But for ours it is game number 2.
To the best of our knowledge as well, with that official map list, there are none of those maps that are currently not in rotation. If there is, then just let us know and we can reevaluate. But even if it's not in current rotation, or even if any of those games or maps, I should say, are not in current rotation, they're still available in custom. Obviously, we want your kids to be able to practice those maps within just, their regular play. But I believe the last time I looked earlier this week, none of those are out of the question when it comes to normal rotation. So should be all good there.
I was gonna say I think I've played almost everyone in the last week or so. I would say 2 weeks. Yep. I forgot last week was state.
Because I know last season, at the beginning of the season, there were a couple that were pulled for bugs as we transitioned to Overwatch 2 from Overwatch 1. The same reason that they had pulled Bastion at the beginning of last season. But I think everything should be cool, calm, copacetic for moving into week 0.
So you were saying a lot of times you don't even get to a game 5. If it's best 3 out of 5, then a lot of times you not necessarily get to the game 4 either, or.
Yeah, I mean, it's best of 3. So if they beat you 3-0, then that's how it is.
Okay.
And so in hybrid is kind of a hybrid of escort and control. So I mean, you're kind of playing it already. It's just on different maps and a different style and stuff like that. So, but. And that can be a thing where if you beat the team or they beat you 3-0, they can still ask hey, do you guys want to finish out the maps and play the maps? It's always good practice to do that. So you can do it. It's just you would just title it, or you would still score it 3-0 instead of 4-0 or 5-0 or something like that. Because
I was going to say, in that scenario, do not put 5-0 on your score sheets. Please do not.
Because it will matter for playoff seeding, how many games you take. And so that's always important to remember is that games do, in a tiebreaker scenario, games 1 does matter. All right, so some match pausing here. A team may pause if a player is unintentionally disconnected or there are equipment issues that are happening. And so I think last year we had a team pause on us because someone spilt water right next to their computer, and so they had to get that cleaned up just really quickly. And so quick pause, come back in, call it good. If you do pause, you got to give the reasoning through either the chat or through the Discord where you and the coach are talking. And then before the game is unpaused, just make sure both teams are ready to go. And then don't use that pause to gain any kind of tactical advantage. And pauses are not timeouts. There is a chance a game can end in a draw. And so if that is the case, that game will be replayed at the end of the night if it's necessary to determine the outcome of the match. So if it's a 2-2-1 scenario, replay that one until there is no longer a tie. if multiple games end in a draw, replay them in the order that they originally appeared. I don't think I've ever had a game end in a draw, and so, but maybe my team's weird. I could be wrong there, but that rarely happens. But
that
if it does, what?
Yeah, that draw scenario is like if you're playing a push map and you go past that like 10-minute or etc. overtime. That's like where it ends in a draw or whatever, and it's just not.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often.
Yes. So some other restrictions: if a new hero becomes available, Malga, that hero is quarantined for the season and not eligible to be played. So, there is a new tank coming out. I think it's the beginning of December, if I remember correctly. And so he will not be available to be played this season. So do not play Malga. Roadhog, we do know that Roadhog just got a rework. However, he is still available to play in the new season with the rework. Talk to the other coach if there are any. If you want to play with skins on, we usually try to do the default skins. It's easier for newer schools to identify the characters. It's a little less difficult in Overwatch than it would be in like a Siege, but just talk to the other coach. That's usually been a quick conversation like, hey, can I wear skins? Great, perfect. And if a kid's wearing a skin, they can't change it mid-game, but they can change it for the next game. So just make sure that they're doing that if it's a mistake, because we know our kids and they listen all the time. You also can't play with an AI player, but you also can't play with less than 4 students. So you can play a 4v5 if you need to, but don't play with a random person or an AI person. Spectators, we already talked about the spectators. Basically, don't use the spectator to give an advantage to the other team. Basically, if you're coaching, you shouldn't be looking at it. And if you're looking at it, then you shouldn't be coaching. Coaching is allowed during the game, so you can talk to your players while they're playing and just kind of give them some pointers, stuff like that. There are timeouts in between games that you can use. I think each team gets 1 5-minute one. And usually there's just that minute in between while you're changing maps and stuff like that to get ready to go. Basically, don't use any bad manners while you're in a game. If you get called out for it, there is a submission thing that we have that a team can kind of submit and say, hey, we have footage of this team acting poorly. Can you go check it out? And so we can go check it out, and we can give out warnings, and we can give out bans and stuff like that. So just don't do it. And don't do any hacking, ghosting, stream cheating. Don't do any of that. Like, just have fun. Play the game. And then a couple little things here. There are some patches and updates. Make sure that your Overwatch 2 is being updated. If there's an update that just kind of completely bugs the game out, we can maybe say, hey, don't do it. I don't know. Is that possible, Lauren? Can you just not update your game?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll let you enter server without updating.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think you can, but I don't know. There might be an issue where we need to, do something with the season. I don't see that being a huge issue. I'm going to knock on wood, though, just in case. And so we usually do whatever the OWL, which is no longer in play anymore, does. So we probably need to talk about that and change that in here, Lauren, since the OWL is no longer a thing, I'm pretty sure. We already talked about new heroes. And then it's your responsibility as a deck to ensure that your equipment's in good working order, your internet is stable. Basically, if something happens, try and there's no pausing, but you can get that character back in the next game. In the event of game server lag, the game may be reset if and only if both decks agree to it. I don't think I've ever had that issue, but it might come up. And then, as the lineup is submitted on the day of competition, it should be noted that no student may be substituted in a game which has begun. So, basically, as long as they're on your roster, they are a free game. If they're not on your roster, then they're not. So, and that's just for a competitive, not to be at a disadvantage. If you have their name and their gamer tag in there. Other teams are able to look it up and stuff like that. Oh, I didn't see that in here, Lauren. Did you see that in here? about making sure that gamer tags
Public profile?
are public. Yeah, please make sure your students' profiles are public, so that way there can be scouting if your team would like to scout. Okay, question there. I think.
Yeah. Is that just public on game day or public from the beginning of the season to the end?
I would make it public week 0 and keep it public the whole time.
Got it. That's what I was thinking. I just wanted to clarify.
And one of the things that I think I saw earlier this year was, and I don't know if it was the kids or the coaches or both, but I know I was seeing it where kids would change their gamer tags like at the beginning of the week, so then that way they couldn't be scouted. So I would talk to your team about not changing names, or if they do change their names, to let you, the coach, or the deck know immediately. That way you can update your dashboard. Because we did
$70 a season.
Wait, what?
It's $10 to change your name on Blizzard. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh,
That's like $70 a season if they're doing that.
That's the most Blizzard thing I've ever heard.
Right? That's the most Blizzard
That's what I was thinking too. That's crazy.
I was gonna say I saw it more on Siege, where like we would scout an opponent on Monday, and then by Thursday their name was altered ever so slightly, and so and I'm gonna guess it's more just the kids doing it just to keep their names fresh or using nicknames or whatever it is. So I would just say just tell your kids don't change their name, and if they do, to let you know when they do. All right, that's all I really had about this. Not like I said, not a lot's changed from last year. Just a couple characters you can't use, a couple maps, and a couple map types we're not playing. Any questions for the whole group?
I have a question here real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
Just thinking about postseason already, is Overwatch going to follow the Smash route and keep the division separate, or is it going to go the Rainbow route and be combined?
Separate. It'll be separate, and we're currently kind of working with, or I should say, internally to decide how that's going to play out. We do not have the option, like with Smash to play it all on one day, and so we're kind of trying to figure out how that's going to work. We'd like your input on a couple of different things, and we'll talk about it more at our next exec meeting next Wednesday. But possibility of adding a day to those winter finals, but I know that that's sometimes can be tough when we've already set the dates and stuff like that. So the ideal situation is that yes, each division will have a champion, runner-up, third place, qualifiers, et cetera, but we just don't know how logistically that's going to work scheduling wise yet. We're like 4 days out from fall finals, so we're still kind of recuperating. But it's a valid question. I understand.
Thomas, I just want to let you know that I was trying to talk to him about it at the fall finals, and they were not listening to me, and they were like telling me to be quiet. So I feel you, Thomas.
Yeah, no problem. Just want to make sure I'm kind of giving my players the right information, correct information from the get-go here.
Perfect. Justin's question: yes, map bans are just for the playoffs. Otherwise, you are doing week 1 Busan, Colosseo, Dorado, Eichenwald, and Busan, and then week 2. Or I'm sorry, that I'm on the wrong part of that page. Hang on, let me go up. There we go. Actually, that's correct, except for Elios. So yeah, you'll run those 5 maps for week 1, which is good because then you know what maps you're playing, and so you as a team can focus on those maps and your strategy for those maps. So. Michael, it looked like you maybe had a question. I'm not entirely sure. Nope, you good? Okay, perfect.
Any other questions for the greater good? Sweet. If a hero or map is disabled mid-season, we did have an instance of this last year with Bastion being taken out kind of shortly after the launch. Then they will be quarantined from when they get put back in. So this was something we talked about a little bit last week with the Hog rework, that if the rework went poorly or if he got pulled for any reason for his abilities maybe not working correctly, outside of normal patch notes or outside of more normal fixes that they do on a weekly basis, then those things would be quarantined from the time they go back in, basically, or from the time they're pulled through the rest of the season. Again, we have the precedence of last year when Bastion was pulled towards the first couple weeks of season, or I should say right before the first week of season, I think. Even if he was put back in, we do not play him in play. Austin, what's up?
So just so I've got clarity on this, let's say, God forbid, Sombra gets banned. Sombra gets banned, but then they fix her and put her back in week 1. She comes back in middle of week 1 after varsity's played, before JV has played. She is quarantined the rest of the season.
The precedence is yes, because we did the same thing with Bastion. That the season had started, there was a couple of weeks of Overwatch 1 that Overwatch 2 had been. Because I think last season, or I should say last year, Overwatch 2 was released about a month before the season started, and Bastion was pulled about 2 weeks after that, and he did not come back in until about week 2 of competition, and we did not allow him back in. So it would be the same precedence there, that if Sombra got taken out today and was put back in week 2 or something like that, we would still not let her be played.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So everybody break Sombra, please. Thank you.
Understandable.
As a soldier main, I 100% get that. I'm 100%.
Just for everyone in the lobby, turrets counter Sombra. Turrets counter Sombra.
Levi, go play Call of Duty.
If we had it, Lauren.
So does rage quitting.
Fair. The ultimate counter.
Oh, God.
That's great.
All right. Any other questions for the greater good? I'll say, Jason, I feel like you have a question. It's just not coming through.
All right.
Oh, maybe.
Okay. Wait, who? Jason?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see a Jason.
I could see that he was speaking, but I don't think the mic was on.
Maybe he wasn't talking to us.
Maybe not.
Okay.
That's true.
Cool. All right.
I'm not important. I feel it.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop this